Okay, so here's our first tutorial with Flash animation. Here we go. Okay, information technology. In your shortcut folder, you're going to find Adobe Flash Professional CC. Double click to open it. It's a great program. It's a lot of fun to work with. We can make animations. It's kind of basic. It can get very complex. There's lots of tutorials online, so if you ever were interested in learning more, you could always look up some tutorials. And that's more or less where we're going to be heading in the future for you guys. So, okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, we can open up a recent item if you wanted to over here. Those are all things I was working on recently. You'll find that your recent items that you're working on will be there. We can make creating new ones as well. We're going to be looking at ActionScript 3. You can make video games actually using ActionScript 3, so it's something that I think we could start to work with, and then if that were an interest for you, you could keep working with that. Anyways, so double click to open that when you've got your Flash document open, and you want to make sure that your Flash document looks like mine. So you've got all your tools on the left side here. You've got your timeline in the top. You have your scene window in the bottom left corner. You've got a number of tools and options, properties, menus, and whatnot over here, I should say. Yeah, so make sure yours looks like that. If it doesn't, on the little window up here where it says classic, you want to find the classic style. I believe we're using the same style in our Photoshop program. Anyway, here we go. So a couple things we want to look at first of all is just the tools. The tools are very similar to that in Photoshop. You have your selection tool right at the top. We've got a brush tool here, rectangle tool. We have a line tool that we haven't really played around with much. We have a lasso tool. I think it's got the magnetic lasso. Nope, it doesn't either. Anyhow, it works similar way. 3D rotation tool, a couple of tools that we're not familiar with. Free transformation tool, that's very similar to what we saw in Photoshop there. What's nice about the Flash is they have it right there for you to use. It's going to be handy for you to notice what the keyboard shortcuts are. So V for the selection tool, Q for the free transformation tool, R for the rectangle, N for the line, O for the oval, B for the brush. Paint bucket tool we'll be looking at as well. Eraser tool as well. Yeah, here's your zoom tool as well. You can use your keyboard shortcut hitting the Z key to hit all those. Down here we've got our color swatches. We've got a stroke color, that's the first one that we're looking at here, and then we have a fill color, which is a little different than in Photoshop. So we'll talk about that, how it works. So start with playing around with the rectangle tool. You can hit the R button to do that if you want. And on the other side of the screen you'll notice properties panels. Fill and stroke, those are two different things you're gonna play around with. First of all, play around with the stroke color. We're gonna increase that to just by sliding the selector bar, so you can see what difference is between stroke and fill. And I want you to click on stroke and change it to a distinct color. It doesn't matter what it really is, but as long as it's very distinct and different than your fill color. So I pick yellow. I'm gonna pick, I like that blue actually. I think I like that one. So very different. You won't be able to adjust your size. This is for brush size that you're looking at later. We'll get into that after. The stroke though is going to be the thing you want to play around with. That's going to give us the thickness of the stroke. I'll make it about 30 to start with, to begin with. You'll be able to change the stroke as well to different things. I'll show you how we can do that afterwards. Width. Yeah, we'll play with this when we look at the line tool. Scale, keep that as normal. This has to do with, we'll look at it after as well. Okay, so most of those settings we'll just keep as is, and you're just going to make a normal rectangle in the middle. There we go. There's our nice rectangle, and you can see that the stroke, that's the line on the outside, is a different color than the fill color. So that's what we wanted to show you. Now, That's the setting right now. If you wanted to change some of the things that were involved with what you just drew, you have to select your selection tool to be able to select the object on the scene. Okay, so you click that, or you can press your V key. I believe it's your V. Yep, your V tool, and then you can select it. So notice something with your rectangle is that all of these are individual. So if you remember back to Photoshop, if you want to copy something more than one thing at a time, rather hold the shift key down. Maybe we didn't talk about that. And you can select all of them at the same time. Now you can adjust all of your stroke sizes in relation to the fills, make it bigger or smaller. If you just wanted to select one of them and do that, you can do that as well. And if you wanted to back up, you can go undo stroke size, I believe. Eventually it goes step backwards, I don't recall. Anyhow, similar. So you might want to, just to begin with, just if you make a mistake, revert back to the last thing that you did right away. Okay, so just want to show you that. First thing, how to delete something off your screen as well, is you, with your selection tool selected, you click and drag a box over top the whole thing. You can press delete, that's one way to do it. Or you can go in your edit, you can cut it if you did that, and you wanted to paste it back again, you can press Control V and paste it back again, or you can go back in here and paste it, paste in place kind of thing, or paste it somewhere else. Anyhow, I'm just going to delete it and look at the line tool. Line tool is very similar. You have your properties over on this side, and you can change the color. Notice there's no fill tool, fill selection here, so there's nothing inside you could change, just the stroke color. So we can play around with that. I think I'll pick a red, and I'm just going to change the size, and this time we're going to look at the different kind of lines that we can make. Let's keep it like that, and I'll show you how you can change them after. So first thing, line, we're going to go right across. There we go. Now in order to change it, you have to get our selection tool, so I'm going to press the V key. That's my selection tool. Now I have to select it if I want to change it, and notice my properties panel options come up. Now I could change the stroke if I wanted to. I could make it from a solid to a hairline, or I can make a different shape. This is really handy if you're making a cartoon, for example, for your animation, and you wanted to make a landscape look a little more organic as opposed to something that you just made. So you can just change it like that. You can also change your color by selecting the stroke color. You can select any color that you want. It's kind of interesting as you can get into some of the gradients and you can change them. So, green, blue, this kind of thing down here. Later on we'll look how we can change the gradient. Alpha is another interesting thing you can do. Alpha is the same thing as very similar to opacity in Photoshop. So you can adjust your alpha level there to give something interesting. There we go. Leave it at that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I want to cover with that right now. So if you want to get rid of it, another way to get rid of something, of course, is to hit your eraser brush, and you can erase various things. Notice I'm erasing whatever I want. Done. And you can adjust your eraser brush, guess what, with the same tools. It actually changes our eraser brush, which is an interesting function as well. But you can make it bigger and smaller, and it also changes to a different shape of an eraser brush. Okay. Okay, what else? I want to show you. Brush tool, yeah, there we go. So brush tool is also an interesting tool that you can use. I like it a lot because you can paint, make something look really cool with the different brushes and some of the different effects that the program has to offer. So you don't have to start with a round brush. You can change your brush shape to a different shape, which is interesting. Let's see, what do I want to start with? Let's go with this guy here. You can make your brush size bigger. I think that's what that does. Actually different. Flatness. You can change different things. Okay. So that's how flat you can make it. You can actually change that. You can change the angle of your brush as well. Interesting. You can make it a rectangle shape if you want. There we go. And so there, that was what I hit was the plus. If I go minus, let's go okay. See what happens. Delete the selected brush section cannot be undone. I don't want to do that. So that deletes the brush that I just made. I'm going to cancel that. I'm just going to look. Okay, so there's the new brush that I just created. It actually added it to the bottom of the panel. Interesting. Okay, so you can change the size of the brush. There you go. You can make a big brush, small brush, whichever you want. There's not as many options with that, but what you can do if you find you don't have enough variety for the size of brush, is you can zoom out of the screen and then make your brush size really big, and it'll make a really large stroke across your scene there. Anyhow, show you how to do that another time. That's pretty much all I want to show you there. That's all you can really change there. A lot of that has to do with the line tool. And then down here though, where it says smoothing, this is a really handy function. So I'm just going to make a line with 100% smoothing, and you notice what it did is it made the line really, really smooth and very cool looking, something which I probably take a long time to draw with my hand. If I took all the smoothing off of it, that's what you get. You get kind of a basic looking scratch scribble, right? So if you turn it back on again, it makes all of your lines look so nice and interesting. So play around with that as well. Okay. Now, paint bucket tool. We'll look at that really quick. Paint bucket tool is something that you can fill on the inside. So let's say I wanted to fill this color here. And notice the stroke is not selectable at this point. We're just going to go zoom in here first of all. Back to our, what do we have, paint bucket. So our K button brings back to our paint bucket, and inside, it's going to back up here. Undo fill color. I want to zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So it's where the arrow is. I thought it was where the end of the drip out of the paint can is. Anyhow, you can fill sections inside. Go fill a couple sections here and there. Dun, 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 dun. Play around. You want to change your fill color. Let's go something different. Go. Boom. Boom. Alright, I think that's pretty much all the sections that I have highlighted. One more. There we go. So now, there we go. Something that looks kind of interesting. Zoom button with my Z key. Hold the Alt down, click on it. And there we go. V key for your selection tool. Actually, that's not what I'm looking for. I have a little hand. That's the one I want. The hand tool, the H button, is very handy because you can move your page around. Okay, there we go. So I've got a couple shapes made, a couple of features made. What I'm going to get you to do is to play around with this and create a picture. Try not to make it too cluttered. That's one thing, because it can happen really fast if you're not careful. I want you to use the paint bucket tool in the picture. I want you to use the brush tool in the picture. I want you to use the rectangle tool or the oval tool and the line tool in your picture. There needs to be different colors in your picture. There needs to be sections that are filled in with your paint bucket. You have to have different line thicknesses and different levels of smoothing for your paintbrush. Okay, these are things I'll be looking for, things that you need to be familiar with. So play around with it and have some fun. Talk to you in the next one.